In this recording, we're going to look at the Edit Nodes tool, which is found here on the left-hand toolbar. And to begin, I'm going to select one of the artworks from my browser and double-click to quickly create some embroidery shapes. And select one of those shapes, perhaps get a little bit closer to my shape. I think I'll also turn off the texture of our fabric so that we can see easily, and also turn off the grid so that we can clearly see the shapes and their outlines and transformation boxes, etc. So the first thing I want to show you is, right now I'm in the selection mode, and when I come to the next tool and click, whatever shape is selected will now be in the Edit Shape mode, or Edit Nodes. And nodes are the names of the points that are used to create shapes. And so these are shapes that were created automatically by the software based upon the vector artwork that I selected in the browser. And there are three different types of points that you'll see. There will be the red ones, there'll be green ones, and then you will also find there will be blue ones. And to demonstrate that, what I might even use is just the Digitize Outline tool. And remember the Digitize Outline tool, when you use Digitize Outline Shape, we click to create auto curved points. And so the ones that are automatically curved will be blue. If we hold down our Shift key, we can create cusp points or corner points, which will be red. And the green points, they get created by either the software or when I click and drag. And when I drag, I create a tangent line which will affect the way that the curve will enter and exit this point. And so if I just simply click, I get corner point, or I get blue curve points, hold Shift down to get the red corner points, and click and drag to create the green points. Now I'll right click and end this shape, and I've created an open line. And if I select it and then choose Edit Nodes, we'll be able to see all of those blue and red and green points. And in fact, if I get extra close to these, you'll see that if I click on a blue point, it becomes selected, and I could click and drag to move it to a new location, or type delete on my keyboard to remove it and delete it altogether. When I click on a green point, it will also show me the tangent lines that I created when I drew the shape, and I can adjust them. And generally speaking, they'll be parallel to each other, and where they attach to the line is how they adjust the shape. And the closer they are to the shape, the less they affect the curve, and the further away, the more they affect the curve. The blue ones are the auto nodes, and they will adjust the curve automatically just by moving it, and not quite in the same fashion as the green nodes, where I have the special shape lines or tangent lines. The red nodes have no lines, and they don't create a curve at all. They allow us to create sharp corners. So those are the three different types of nodes. And notice I can click on a node to select it, but if I click and drag a box, I can select more than one node. And when I have more than one node selected, notice the transformation box which has appeared. And you could use that transformation box to move the position of both nodes at the same time. So I guess I clicked away, which let go of it, so I'll reselect those two nodes. Make sure your mouse is the multi-directional pointer. See, when I get right there and I have the multi-directional pointer, that's when I could move the location of these 2 points. I can also resize or stretch the shape caused by those 2 points. And so that is another way to transform shapes. You get a transformation box by selecting more than one shape point. It's also possible to change the nodes to the different types. And so when you have your object selected and edit nodes turned on, and you can see the red or blue or green nodes, for example, if I select on this green node and then right click, I am given the secondary menu, which gives me several options. Specifically, in this case, if I wanted to change its type, I could change it from, right now it's a green smooth node. I could change it to be a blue auto smooth node or a cusp node. So if I go to auto smooth node, it will become blue, and the smoothing will be done automatically by the software as I move it. Similarly, I'll select this blue node and right click and tell it to change it to a smooth node, which makes it a green node, which comes with the special tangent lines which can be used to affect the shape of that curve. And finally, I can right click and tell it to make it a cusp node, which will turn it into one of the red, more like a corner style of node. And so by editing the nodes, we are able to change the shape of the objects that we create, as well as the shape of the objects that were created automatically when converting artwork. So for example, if I select this shape of this flower and change to edit nodes, I can easily see that there are corner nodes here at the tips of the flowers and curved nodes to create the bodies of the, the sides of the flower. And in this way, I can easily reshape my flower to have a unique and specific shape that I want. And you could change the style of the nodes, etc. So if I select on this corner node and I right click and tell it maybe to create it a smooth node or an auto smooth node, then it will drastically change the shape of my object. So that is edit shape nodes, and there's more uses to the edit nodes tool. And so what I'd like to demonstrate is what happens when we use the edit nodes tool with, for example, other shapes. So let me move away and choose my shape tool and quickly draw, a rectangle, maybe also, an ellipse, and perhaps even a star shape. And I will, of course, discuss creating circle, squares, and star shapes in their own video. But for today, what I wanted to point out was when I create shapes like this and then turn on my Edit Nodes tool, notice that right now the star shape is the one that is selected, and it is now in Edit Nodes mode. And when you create a shape, the software creates very special nodes. The center one is how I can move the position of this star. The one that's way outside here, this is the one that I will use to change the size, proportions of that star. The one that's on the tip of the point of the star, I'll use to rotate the star to be any starting angle. And the one that's on the inside of the angles of the rays will allow me to adjust the ray size. And so those are very unique editing capabilities that relate specifically to the star shape. And you'll see that also when we're using the star tools or the shape tools, the tool options may relate to those tools, such as the number of rays. So right now we have 6 rays. If you make this, for example, 5, then it will change the number of rays. But the nodes will stay the same. You will have the center node for moving it, the inside of the node for the ray size, the corner or the tip of the ray for the angle, the start angle, and then the furthest one to the outside for adjusting the size and proportions. So similarly, if I click onto now the ellipse, the nodes for the ellipse are two. The one in the center for the position and the one on along the outline for adjusting size and proportion. So that is using the nodes tool to adjust your shapes, and you'll find that all shapes will have special nodes that can be used for adjusting them. There are other special cases where we can use the Edit Nodes tool, such as when incorporating an array fill or crystals fill. And perhaps I can demonstrate that as well. So I will zoom out to give myself some space. Perhaps I'll just select my rectangle that we created, make it slightly larger, and fill it in with crystals. Okay, I'll even turn off the outline so that there is more crystals to be seen. And now I have it with selection mode. If I change to Edit Nodes, and I guess before I demonstrate that, I should point out on the Fill tab, we have Crystal Fill selected, and the way that when you work with Crystal Fill, the way that you can control the arrangement of the crystals is through this portion of the properties box, where you can change, first of all, the style of filling from rectangle to circular, contour, single line, shape fit, and line fit. And each one of these has a different way that they will arrange our shapes. So they have rectangle, circular, contour, etc., etc. So if we look at rectangular, for example, and then there will be mathematical ways to set all of the things like item rotation, spacing, start angles, and slant angles. However, all of these functions can also be controlled using the Edit Nodes tool. And so if I click on Edit Nodes, notice that there are now 3 nodes that are connected by a highlight line. If I just zoom in on these nodes so that we can see more closely, I can select any of these nodes. If I select the one in the center, I can change the location of the pattern of the nodes. If I select the one on the top, I can adjust the distance, the horizontal distance between the rows. If I select the one on the right-hand side, I can adjust the did I say horizontal? This is vertical, this is horizontal. You can see visually what I'm talking about. I adjust the distance between the crystals by using these nodes. So I can do this mathematically here or visually using the Edit Nodes tool. I can also adjust the amount of, overlap between the rows. So you click on this top node and move it over to create an offset to the pattern. So in this way, I can adjust the overall look of a crystal pattern in a very visual manner. Finally, clicking on the right-hand node, I can also adjust the angle of this line. If I go back onto selection mode, zoom out, change the rectangle mode, change the crystal fill from rectangle mode to, let's say, circular mode, go back to Edit Nodes, and notice now that I still have the same 3 points, but adjusting the top one adjusts the number of times that the circle repeats in the circular fashion. Adjusting it closer will adjust the distance between the rows. Oh, sorry, I wasn't. Sorry. The right-hand node is for the distance between the nodes. The top node is for the number of rays, number of steps around our center, around our circle, how many times does it go around? And then the distance is done also with the right. So the distance. So I will go through these again in the video that I prepare for doing crystal fills, but I wanted to include this in the edit nodes mode as well. In fact, why don't we do this one more time with an array fill. And I'll just simply choose an anchor and say insert, and it requires me to click and drag to create the size and sort of angle of that anchor. Now, I'm going to change, the anchor is currently set on a circular pattern, just like the crystals. I'll change it to the rectangular pattern so you can see how this really helps visually to just simply come in and change that array fill to have more or less space between the rows, and more of a pattern or more of an overlap to your pattern, or more of a linear pattern. And so this is the idea. We have the edit nodes tool that can be used to adjust the shapes of our objects by selecting the actual points. And it's also a tool that can be used when working with special fills like the array fill and the crystal fill. In review, there are a few more things I would like to also show you about editing nodes. And to get started, I think I will quickly digitize freehand a shape and draw a line which does not close. Okay, I'll right click and be finished drawing my shape. Now, when I choose edit nodes, notice that my start node and my end node were not touching each other. Therefore, this is an open shape. And an open shape, of course, only has outlines, and maybe we would like to fill this shape in, but it's not available when the shape is open. And so you can select the first node and the finish node, and then right-click over top and tell it to join the nodes. And it will therefore close the shape and allow it to be filled in. And so that was what I wanted to show you, join nodes. And the exact same process can be done in reverse, which would be to go into nodes and select, for example, this green node, right-click, and say split outline. And now, if I look very closely at that area, you can see that the outline was split to have two nodes at that location, which of course the opposite is to select both nodes and right-click to join them again. And in doing that, you can change a closed shape to an open shape. And perhaps one more thing about nodes and node editing is when we use the stencil technique, because a lot of times with stencil technique, if you have, for example, I'll just draw a line, a freehand line. If this line is meant to be cut out as a stencil, and so we select our shape and tell it to be a stencil. And stencils, of course, want to create an outline that you could sort of follow an inside and outside of this line. And so we have the ability, when in stencil mode, to go into edit nodes, to right-click anywhere along the line and say to add a stencil bridge. Add a stencil bridge. And the stencil bridge, if I look closely there, basically breaks the line. And you may need to do, when creating stencils, for example, for things like lettering, you may need to create multiple stencil bridges. See how I can break my shape in multiple places like that? And in this very same technique of moving anywhere along a line of a shape, we can also right-click and say to add a new node. And then it will create a new a new smooth node, which I can change to be a cusp node or an auto smooth node at any time. So these are more functions of the edit nodes tool, and I believe I've thought of most of them, but you may find there are other references to using edit nodes throughout the videos.